Hello, everybody. Welcome to the International Euphonium Summit Living History Series. Special guest Jessica Payne from University of Kansas. Welcome to the summit.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to get started.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to get started. Quick note: if you're watching this for the first time, and there is a link in the intro section to this video, go find us on internationaleuphoniumsummit.com/Jessica Payne and listen to the podcast sequences on your favorite podcast. We dive in a little bit with her recitals that she just completed literally last night. Today's date is September 22nd. There is auditions for. I do want to do a quick pitch for the Natural State Brass Band holding euphonium auditions.
Baritone, two baritone
Just baritone.
spots.
So both the principal baritone and second baritone positions are available, and more details will be hopefully found on that same webpage and links to get to that audition site. So for further ado, thank you so much for joining us, Jessica Payne.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be part of this journey.
Absolutely awesome. So take us back into the beginnings of music for Jessica Payne.
So I had always been really into music. Like one of my earliest memories is putting my headphones on with my little Walkman CD player and forcing my parents to sit there and listen to me sing really, really badly when they couldn't hear the music. All they heard was me singing with the headphones on my head. And that was something that I was always so interested in music and performing. And then we got to fourth grade, and I got to play the recorder, and I was so excited. I was making music. It was so fun. And I really, really wanted to play the flute. And by the time it got to my turn to try instruments, so many people had already picked the flute. They're like, "Are you sure you want to play the flute? You want to try something else?" And I was like, "Well, my mom played viola, so I'll play viola." So I played viola for fifth grade, and I carried that all the way through high school. But in sixth grade, all my friends were in band, and band was held during recess. So I was lonely out on the playground by myself. I'm like, I want to join band too. So I picked up the euphonium because my mom also played euphonium. So I knew what
What?
euphonium was. I know. So I knew what the euphonium was. So they let me play it as a sixth grader when that doesn't normally happen until high school in my school district. So it was super exciting to be playing euphonium all the way from sixth grade to now. Like it was my first band instrument, and not a lot of people get to start in euphonium. So it was really cool for
So,
that.
so did your mom practice at all growing up?
Not euphonium. She did play viola still pretty consistently. She played in the Symphony West Orchestra, which was a little community orchestra where I grew up.
Did I hear that correct? She played viola?
Yeah, she played viola too, viola and euphonium. I just picked her instruments. No original thoughts. I just copied what she played.
Okay, so your mom plays professionally for viola,
She doesn't play professionally, but she played in a community ensemble.
community ensemble. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. You got me there, Jessica. Um, so your mom played viola and euphonium. Did you ever listen to her playing the euphonium growing up before fifth grade?
I didn't because she didn't have one, and we didn't really talk about that she played euphonium until it was time for me to choose instruments. And she's like, "Oh, I played in band." And since I started playing, we would go to tuba Christmases and tuba summers together. So we would
Oh,
get to
that's
play together
cool.
there. It was a lot of fun. She would also come to the alumni band events at my high school. We would play together in the marching field, and the alumni concert band piece was always Stars and Stripes. So she would come play Stars and Stripes with me. It was always fun.
That's really cool. That's a really awesome moment. So when you went to look at band instruments for, I'm assuming since you were playing viola and you were lonely on the playground for sixth grade, you started like considering band. And did you
Yeah, at the end of fifth grade, I really wanted to join band because I was, like I said, I was like lonely on the playground. My friends were in band. And so I talked to the band director, and they're like, "Okay, yeah, next year we'll get you started on something. Do you know what you want to play?" And I'm like, "The euphonium, I know what it is." And they're like, "Oh, okay, we'll see about that." So the school year rolled around next year, and then the high school band director actually came in with like a euphonium from the high school for me to use, and I was able to make a sound on it. So it was like, okay, good to go. And they put me in a little storage closet, and they said, learn the fingerings, and then you can join the rest of the band.
That's awesome. So when you brought the euphonium home for the first time, what did your mom think that that you had a euphonium in your hand?
One, she was annoyed because now I couldn't take the bus because I couldn't bring the baritone on the bus. But she was really excited. She played it a little bit. It was fun to get kind of going with that again. And then we started doing the tuba Christmas stuff. She ended up buying one of her own. She got one of those like little like the kind of the cheaper baritones. They're not quite great, but they make a sound and they're good for tuba Christmas. So it's always fun to do stuff like that.
That's really cool. So you didn't ride the bus. She picked you up all the time. What did she give you any lessons or kind of tips on how to play?
Not really. I kind of hit the ground running once they left me to my own devices. So I didn't actually know how to read bass clef until eighth grade. Was the funny thing. 'Cause I could read alto clef with viola, but with euphonium, I was just writing in every fingering and every note name. And what really got me actually learning it was in seventh grade, I did the solo and ensemble. We did the Greater Cleveland Solo Ensemble, so we were allowed to play whatever piece we wanted. It didn't have to be from a list. So I played one of the trombone gems, the Vandercook ones, the ones that
Yeah.
everyone plays.
So did you go Ruby or?
I did. I went Ruby. The first one. And I still have that piece of music because when we were in seventh grade, we actually wrote letters to our future selves, like when we graduated from high school. So I put that piece of music in that letter, and I'm so glad I did because it's got highlighter all over it. It's got pencil marks going to the coda and everything. Every single note name and every single fingering is written in. Even the beginning, like there's 3 A's in a row. I wrote down the 3 A's every single time. It's so funny to look back at it now. I'm really glad I still have that because it's like a little like, oh, what was she thinking?
That's really awesome.
That was kind of what got me really into it. And then going through middle school, I was the only euphonium player still because I didn't start them on euphonium until high school. So I was still trucking along. I was the only one. I played euphonium in the jazz bands until high school. I played one of the, it was actually a marching trombone, like a flugelbone.
Yeah.
I played the flugelbone in the jazz bands until my director, he was like, you're going to go to college for music, so you're going to learn how to play the trombone. And I was like, yes, sir, I'm going to learn how to play the trombone. So I learned the trombone for jazz band. And I still miss the flugelbone. That's one of my favorite instruments to play. We had a really cool Effie Olden Sons flugelbone. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I've always been super into the euphonium from day one. The kind of like the moment for me in high school when I knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life was my sophomore year. The trombone section leader couldn't make the instrument tryout night for the fifth graders, so they sent me instead. So I got to sit there and show these kids the trombone for the first time in their life and have them make their first sounds on a musical instrument. And it was so cool. And I went up to my band director and I'm like, I think I want to be a band director. Don't want to do that anymore. But at the time, that was the only thing I knew you could do in music. So it was the only thing I saw. I'm like, you could be a band director or play in an orchestra, and I don't see any euphoniums in the orchestra. So I was like, I want to be a band director. And that's when I really started to get serious about it. I would show up to practice the second the custodians unlocked the door for the schools in the morning. I would stay in practice until the custodians kicked me out at night. Like I was just there constantly. And one of the gigs I had this week was actually at my old high school. And I was talking to my band director. And he's like, you were so annoying when you were in high school because you would sit there in the practice room next to my office and just practice high notes for hours. And in my head, I'm like, will she ever stop? But also, I know she's going to make it because she never stops.
That's awesome. So if you never rode the bus, what was going through your mom's head when you were in high school and having to be dropped off early and picked up late?
So the dropped off early wasn't a problem because my dad would just drop me off before he had to go to work.
Okay,
but the
sure.
late part, I was just like, she just accepted it at that point. She's like, oh God, we made this mistake. She's gonna be like this forever.
That's awesome. So, I mean, we have so much to go on. Okay, so you really love jazz, so that makes sense why you would uh, inherently, in just thinking as an outsider, why you would pick UCA to go to and study under Dr. Gail Robertson for your master's for
She
jazz.
definitely helped me with my jazz. I have never been the strongest at jazz. I really like it. One of my undergrad jazz professors told me I couldn't swing my way out of a paper bag. So that was he was a little bit old school. I don't see why you would say that to someone, but right now it's just kind of a funny story. But at the time I was like, oh no. But yeah, Dr. Robertson really did help me with the jazz. We one of the pieces I auditioned for her with was the Blue Lake Fantasies. So the third movement, all that jazz. She was like, I played it for her before the audition. She's like, we need to have a lesson on this before you play it for the panel, because I was swinging but not correctly. So we worked on that. It was funny because I auditioned during COVID and I was used to playing with a mute in, but I had to use a bell cover, so I couldn't play with a mute in. And I was like, oh, it's very different, but it ended up going really well. The audition was fun. The band director at that point, Ricky Brooks, he was a Euphonium player too, so he picked the hardest excerpts on my list for me. Like he had me play Festive Overture, the Demon Variations, and Pineapple Pole. Like he went straight for like blood the second he was calling these, and I'm like, I have easier excerpts on here. Don't you want to hear them? But it went really well. It was a lot of fun. UCA was the only school I auditioned at for my master's program. The second I met Dr. Robertson, I knew that was going to be the place I went.
That's awesome. So going back to middle school and being able to play during the recesses of middle school with your friends in band, what was that first moment of like finally sitting down with your friends during recess during that time and knowing that you didn't have to play alone anymore at recess? Do you remember that moment?
Vaguely, like it's just the community that I've always felt in band, like especially brass band is like just the community. And just yeah, being able to like hang out with my friends, and we'd sit together at lunch, and then we'd go right across the hall to the band room, was across from the cafeteria, and then we would get our instruments out together. We were like, it was fun. We were able to hang out again when we weren't able to before, because they were in band and I was out sitting on a swing on a playground.
So what was it like playing your first tuba Christmas with your mom then?
That was one of the coolest things ever. I was auditioning at the University of Akron, just kind of looking around there, and that was my junior year of high school, I think, maybe sophomore year. Just kind of poking around, seeing what the school of music was like, and the professor there told me about Tuba Christmas. And I was like, I've never heard of Tuba Christmas. Let's go. So we went, and Akron's is, I think, the second biggest in the country. So it was just so many people were there, and I was not expecting to see so many euphonium players. And that's where I met Jim McIntyre, and he had that double bell euphonium, and I was just enamored with that thing. And he let me play it. Like he had no idea who I was, and he let me play it. And then every year subsequently, he has brought that horn for me to play. And it was so cool because Tucker Jolly was the one running it, and he's just such a funny person. I love Tucker, and it was just so cool to see how many tuba euphonium players they were, and like they decorated their instruments like crazy, and just showing up to something like that felt like such a giant sense of community. I was like, oh my god, people like the tuba and the euphonium. It's not just me.
So what I mean, your mom drove up there with you for that?
Yeah, we went together, and then my dad went too and sat in the audience. We joke that he's the roadie. He's the one that schleps the gear. He's the
And
roadie photographer.
that's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing some photos of you and your mom together with you in that first tuba Christmas. Hopefully, I mean, I think the audience would really love to share that moment with you. I think that would be really cool. So if you're willing to share those photos, that'd be
I
awesome.
definitely have some cute pictures that I can send your way, because we
Awesome.
decorated our instruments the first year. My mom put a tree in her bell.
As a mute or actually like where it's playable?
It was playable. It was set up so it was right on like the rim of the bell, like a little tree feet.
That's cute.
It
That's
wasn't
really
playable. It wasn't playable great. Like it wasn't fantastic, but you could like you can make some noise on it.
So you were the only euphonium player for middle school. How was it playing during like concert season for the middle school bands?
We only really played out of those like the big band method books. I don't remember which one we used. I think we used Essential Elements, but they didn't even have a euphonium book for middle school because we didn't buy our own books. We just used a class set, so I just played out of a trombone book. So it was, I didn't have any individual parts, which was a little bit annoying. And I actually remember in like high school, one of my first years playing, I went up to my band director and I'm like, I have parts that say euphonium, but none of them are like individual parts. Like I'm just doubling everybody for everything. Like I don't have a single line that's my own. And he was like, sorry, I don't know what to tell you about that. But the next concert cycle, we played Holst's first suite. So
Oh yeah,
there was definitely a little bit more euphonium going on there.
that's really cool. So man, there's so much to go on. And I think this is a really great segment. So as we're getting into, we touched on some of Jessica's high school career, but I think we're going to segue into that for the next series interview with Jessica Payne as we go off back to the podcast segment. We'll touch some points there. So if you're interested in learning more about Jessica's journey and where she's at currently and upcoming events of where she's at, especially at University of Kansas for upcoming recitals or even brass band performances with like Athena Brass Band. Find that all that information at internationaleuphoniumsummit.com/Jessica-Payne. We'll leave the links in the bio or the information section on this video, and jump over to the podcast on your favorite form. And until next time, Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your story. That's really cool that your mom plays viola and euphonium. That's not
Cool.
common. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
pick the two instruments that are like the outcasts.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, I mean, both you and your mom play that. So it's just
Yeah.
mind blowing. And we'll probably cover that in the recap of this interview on the podcast. So join us there. And until next time, everyone, on this video, thank you for joining us and being part of this amazing series. Thank y'all, everyone.